Oh, you're there, aren't you? Keep looking up there because the lights are so bright in here. I do apologise, guys. You're there, aren't you? Hello, beautiful ones. How are you all doing? Right, let's get some of this on. Shall I get this on this old face rather than saying hello to people I can't see because the lights are so bright in here? Shall I do that? Okay, I'll try. Shall I? Right. Dime qué es lo que esperas. Dime qué quieres ver. Hi everyone, welcome back to the House of Joseph. It's really lovely to see you all here today on this foul old Saturday morning. It is tipping down in England. I'm having a day at home today to spend with you beautiful ones. So should we dive on in? Let's do it. The subject of today's tutorial, guys, is this, which is the L'Oreal True Match Super Blendable Face Perfecting Powder, it's actually called. And I can't work out whether this is a pressed powder or a powder foundation or what. Last night I watched a couple of reviews because this won't be a blind review this morning. This will be me teaching you how to use a powder foundation or a pressed powder once we establish actually what it is. Do you know what I mean? And obviously I'll be playing around with this, making pastes and trying it on in various different ways. So, and me being me, obviously have the liquid foundation to go with the powder because you've got to really, haven't you? I mean, you can't buy one without having the other one, can you, beautiful ones? This was around £10. Again, I'll find out and I'll pop that down here or link it into the description or do both. This I got yesterday, this I got maybe 2 or 3 months ago, but the foundation is amazing, beautiful ones. The only drawback I find with it is it's very, very, very sheer. So if you want more coverage, you can build it up, of course. The colour range is phenomenal. I think they've got something like 75 shades, and that's in shade 3C. I don't think, no, the camera's not going to pick it up. And I have 2 of these, actually, beautiful ones. I've got shade C3 or Rose Beige, and I've also got 2C. In rose vanilla, sorry. And what I tend to do is mix them together so I can get my exact skin tone. And I've done a whole video on how to establish your skin's undertones, which I'll link here or again, link into the description. Sometimes it can be a good idea to have 2 bottles of foundation, one slightly lighter for winter, one slightly darker for summer. And because I know that the 3C is virtually a perfect match for my skin tone, the same shade in the powder foundation should in theory translate that this should be ideal for my skin tone too, although it does look very pale, slightly yellow, but should we try it on? Why not? So I guess, beautiful ones, in many respects, today we're going to be trying to find out whether this is actually a pressed powder or a powder foundation. Who knows? We'll find out though, won't we, guys? Okay. So it comes with there's like a swirly sort of pattern on the compact itself, and there's a little sponge applicator thing. No smell at all, which is nice. The cassette itself looks a little bit cheap, if I'm being honest with you guys. Is that there's the flip up, there's the compact itself, and underneath you've got shaking. It's because I've had too much tea and coffee. There's the mirror underneath, and there's the little sponge applicator, which we won't be using, so I may as well throw that away now. Something I always do, beautiful ones, as a makeup artist is to apply a little swatch on my face, usually from there down to there, just to make sure the colour is spot on. A little tip I'll give you guys now is when you're applying a powder to your face and you're doing the swatch, don't use your fingertips, because we have little oils and sweat in our fingertips and we put it onto the powder. We're transferring that oil onto the powder and it can form that shiny, hard sort of surface. Do you know what I mean? So rather than doing that, just get your foundation brush and apply a very small amount onto the tip of the brush, or as much as you want, in fact. And then you can just make a point out of your brush and you can sweep it down. Okay, we need a little bit more, really. Stuff's really sheer, isn't it, guys? Really sheer. Okay, and you can build that up as well, guys, because it said it was buildable, didn't it? Okay, quite liking this stuff. Could be onto a winner here, guys. Let's not count our chickens before they've hatched, though, like I usually do. I usually go rushing to conclusions and then change my mind massively, don't I, guys? Now, you can't even see that, can you? Maybe a little bit just there, but yeah, very, very good colour match. But then again, we knew it would be, didn't we? Because of this is an amazing foundation. Stop going on about the virtues of the True Match foundation, please, and talk about the powder instead. Okay, I'll do that. To be perfectly honest with you, beautiful ones, I don't like these little powder puff things that these companies supply with the makeup that, you know, they sell. But for demonstration's sake, today I'll put half of this onto my face using the sponge applicator, and the other half I'll just use my brush. Because obviously, maybe, why do I keep saying obviously? And the reason we'll do that, guys, is because these powder puff things that companies supply with foundation, they don't tend to pick up makeup evenly, whereas a brush, you know, you can get a more of an even application. So we'll get a good layer of him onto the spongette. Should we call that a spongette? Even though I don't think that's the proper name for it at all. Let's get a little bit more on, shall we? Okay, the lights are really bright now. I've actually got two lights facing me now, and I can turn one off or turn them down depending on, you know, the level of light or the level of inspection what I'm going to be doing. So should we see if it can cover that red mark there? So I'll start on the center of my face and start working out. And I worked out last night why so many foundations oxidize so badly, beautiful ones. I did. I think it's because we use primers underneath them, and I'm sure that's why many foundations oxidize, because you'll have heard me say many times before that foundations aren't designed to be used with anything. They're just not, guys. Do you know what I mean? When the companies make foundations, they don't test it on moisturized or serumed up skin. They test it on bare skin, and thus, or therefore, the claims that the foundation makes, say it's a 16-hour matte foundation, all of those claims, the 16-hour and the matteness goes out the window the minute you start applying that foundation on top of heavy moisturizers, serums, and stuff. I'm getting off the beaten track, aren't I? I do apologize, guys. My theory behind the primer foundation oxidizing hypothesis, if that's what you want to call it, is that the primers tend to have ingredients in them which can hasten the oxidization process, thereby making the foundation oxidize far quicker. Sorry if that doesn't make sense to anybody. It makes sense to me. Do you know what I mean? In my mind, I know what I'm trying to say. It just gets lost in translation sometimes because I can't find the right words. I'm not the most eloquent person in the world, I guess. But right, so that's one layer of him on. Wow, very sheer. It's just disappeared, isn't it, into my skin. Let's have a little skin feel test. Skin feels amazing. And by the way, I'm about a week post-peel now, and my skin's starting to feel really lovely and look not bad either, I think, isn't it? Can you see the gleam between my eyebrows? And right, okay. Shall I put a little bit more on? Why not? Let's build this baby up, shall we? How are you all, beautiful ones? I hope you're okay. Got any plans for the weekend? I'm very busy as usual, just, you know, socialising and all of that, but okay. So the powder puff, it just feels a bit cheap, do you know what I mean? And it's not applying the foundation how you'd want it to. I suppose it's just getting it onto my skin, isn't it? And once it's on my skin, it's just sat there, really. What I'm trying to say is it's not blending in as well as it should do, which we'll mend with the brush. Let's get a good layer of this on, shall we? So we can give it a true inspection or a true opinion or evaluation. Yeah, okay, so that's about two and a half, 3 layers of that one on my face using the NAF sponge applicator. Should we have an inspection? Why not? Now, do bear in mind, guys, that the company claimed that this was a foundation. They did, I might find some screenshots and put them here, or I might even read out what the company says about this. Although, shall I stop moaning and get on and, you know, it's very slightly mattified my skin, hasn't it? Although, yeah, I suppose it's evened up my skin tone, hasn't it? If you compare that side with that side, you can see the red blotches there. Not saying that they're exactly the same on this side, because skin obviously isn't a mirror, you know, one side of the skin's not a mirror image of the other. Although, yeah, I'm pretty impressed with this stuff so far. I watched a video last night. I can't remember the lady's name. If I can find it, I'll link it into the description. And because there aren't that many reviews, there's only about 2 or 3 reviews on the powder foundation itself on YouTube. And this lady last night, she applied it on top of primer. Again, big mistake, because the second it touched her skin, it went about 5 or 6 shades darker, and it didn't blend in very well either. But a surefire way of me knowing whether a foundation is going to be any good for me or not is to check the end of my nose. First, I do a skin feel test. That feels utterly matte, very smooth, a little bit dry actually. In fact, yeah, I've got to be honest with you guys. This has got hyaluronic acid in, but at levels which won't make a blind bit of difference to anyone's skin. Again, they're label dressing, so. But yeah, I'm very pleased with the way it gives you skin a very sort of lit from within glow. But does that side look any different from that side, really? I don't think it does it? No, I think it's something and nothing again, but in my mind, I'm now comparing this to the other powder foundations which L'Oreal companies sell. So that would be Maybelline, the 24-hour Superstay Hybrid Powder Foundation. Massive full-on coverage there. The Infallible Powder Foundation by L'Oreal. Again, very similar to the Maybelline 24-hour. Both very high coverage foundations. But this one is just, it's ultra sheer, isn't it? Very sheer. So I don't know whether it's a pressed powder or a foundation, really. At the moment, it's more like a pressed powder. And I did put quite a fair bit on, didn't I, guys? I mean, you saw me slap quite a bit of this onto my face. Although, yeah, no, I think we're moving towards the pressed powder territory, so I don't think this is a powder foundation. But we won't draw any conclusions yet. Now we'll go in with my paddle brush, which obviously I've been playing around with it this morning. I do like to keep my brushes nice and clean, and I wash them after every use. And also something else I tend to do is just to give my makeup a quick wipe over with a J cloth and some antibacterial spray cleanser. And I've got a great big bushel box of foundations, which I'll show you a little bit later on, or I might even do a separate tutorial on those entirely, because there's hundreds upon hundreds of foundations in them. And if I went through each foundation individually, we'd be here until the year 3000. So, right guys, here's my brush and there's the foundation. Let's get a good amount of him on there, shall we? Why not? And we could put maybe a few layers on, couldn't we? Because I just can't see this being do you know what I mean? It's nowhere near as full coverage as the Dream Map 24-hour Superstay or even the Infallible, but then it didn't claim to be, did it? So, but it's claiming to be a foundation, so we need to put it to the test, guys, don't we? That's what we're all about on the House of Joseph and the experiments I do. I've decided to call myself an experimental makeup artist, the only experimental makeup artist on YouTube. What do you reckon? Oh, you're there, aren't you? Keep looking up there because the lights are so bright in here. I do apologise, guys. You're there, aren't you? Hello, beautiful ones. How are you all doing? Right, let's get some of this on. Shall I get this on this old face rather than saying hello to people I can't see because the lights are so bright in here? Shall I do that? Okay, I'll try. Shall I? Right. And my pro or professional makeup artist tip for today is if you want quite a light coverage, hold your brush towards the end. So let's do that. Let's just say, for argument's sake, I'm going to put a little bit on my cheek. So hold your brush right towards the end and just dust him on. And that way you're not putting so much foundation on your face. And say you want a fuller coverage, go right to the tip, near the bristles, and then go really close to the bristles, beautiful ones, and then get a good layer of him on. And that way you can get a fuller coverage. Do you know what I mean? Hope you do, guys. Right. So that's basically one layer of him on my skin now, isn't it? And I haven't primed my skin at all. And I don't. And now I know why I don't. Do you know what I mean? Because of the my theory that primers actually hasten the oxidation, and I'm sure that's why, guys. And I wish a company would make a primer which was pro or anti-oxidization. Do you know what I mean? That you could apply to your face and then go in with a layer of foundation, especially a powder foundation, because the second that touches anything which is wet or tacky, it's going to go a lot darker. But getting off the beaten track, I was saying I wish a company would invent a primer which its properties are that it prevents foundations from oxidizing. I suppose I could make one, couldn't I? Why not? So guys, that's one layer of the True Match Super Blendable Perfecting Powder on my right hand side of my face, which will appear left. You do remember that everything's inverted, isn't it? Let's have an inspection. I've got a feeling that this side, yeah, it's going to be a lot sheerer, because this side we used this one, didn't we, to put that onto my skin with, and that's basically like using a trowel, whereas this is more like using a paintbrush. So you're going to get a much sheerer, a much more natural look using a brush. Let's just blend in the areas which I like the fact it doesn't gather around the nostrils, and that was one of my biggest issues with the 24-hour hybrid foundation. The Maybelline one was the fact that it just grabbed onto every single bit of texture. It stuck around my nostrils and looked bright orange until I went and soaked my sponge, and then that just transformed the foundation. If I can remember, I'll link that into the description, my video on how to transform a powder foundation, and we'll have a go with that a little bit later on, because this has got silicones in it, but I'll talk about that a little bit later on. Let's have an inspection. Yeah, can you see this side? It hasn't covered those, but let's build it up, shall we, and see whether we can cover those. And they're just basically two old spots from my salicylic acid face peels, but the less said about those, the better, guys. Should we move on? Let's move on. I'm also really liking the fact this foundation, it doesn't settle into lines, because if I'd have just gone in with something like the 24-hour or the Infallible, that probably would have settled into my lines on my forehead or my trenches on my forehead. But this one seems to be floating above them, so it's a very good pressed powder we're leaning towards at the moment. It's certainly not, I don't think it's a foundation, but again, until we soak this down and go in with a wet brush, then we won't really know. But let's get a bit more and put a second layer on of him, shall we? And as I've already said, this hasn't got that horrible shiny film to it because I haven't used my fingertips at all. That's a big tip there, guys. I remember my nan used to have a cream puff, a Max Factor cream puff, and it used to have a really hard shiny surface on it. And I can't think why I remembered that. But do you know what I mean? Sometimes you remember stuff, don't you, from childhoods, and that's one of, not my abiding memory of my nan at all, because why would I remember my nan as having a cream puff that had a shiny seal on shiny spot. I'm certainly waffling today, beautiful ones. I'm on the waffle train and I ain't coming off. It's going high speed towards Waffle City, I think, at the minute. So we're trying to cover those marks. And did you notice before I did start in the centre of my face, which is another tip. You're there, right? You guys keep looking at the people, please, rather than above the people. Right, I'm determined to love this stuff now, just because, you know, I'm a big fan of powders anyway, because they're very, very versatile. You can use them as setting powders, you can use them as powder foundation, you can even just use them to blot oiliness, and then you can start playing around with, hang on, are we starting? No, I think we're starting, yeah. Okay, can you see that red mark is now starting to disappear after nearly 10 layers, no, about 3 or 4 layers of this stuff. But, so if you want fuller coverage, I don't think this would be the one for you guys, sorry. Although if you're just after a very natural matte, not even matte, I guess it's a demi matte or a sort of a very healthy natural matte look, isn't it? Bring it down onto the neck too, put some into the old beard. Has that covered those marks now? They were there. No, that hasn't quite covered them, has it? I've got a feeling though that once we make a paste, we're gonna just see big results from this foundation, hopefully anyway. What I'll go and do now is I'll just go and see what this looks like in natural daylight, and I'll be back in a minute. Brush is just fallen on the floor. So beautiful. And should we try this with a soaked brush? Why not? So get yourself a bowl full of water, and I want you to go and get your foundation brush too, and just itchy moustache. Just dip your foundation brush into the water like so. Get a good amount of water, because I've already used this I've already been playing around with it, so the water is going to go quite cloudy. Put that one over there. So your brush is now sopping wet. I want you to go and get a J-cloth, beautiful ones, and just dab off the excess. Just one dab should do, so the brush is still pretty wet, although it's not sopping wet anymore. Get the foundation if you can, get it open. And we'll just apply that, and we're going to be making a paste. So you can see immediately, can't you, how much this wants to not turn into a paste, because everything's going wrong today. No, it's not, I'm kidding, guys. Yeah, so, and by doing this, we're just getting a bit more coverage than just, do you know what I mean, just the powder on its own. And also, by going in with the brush with the paste, we're giving ourselves a lot more precision too. So there's quite a bit on there at the minute. So, and I'll start by applying it onto the central parts of my nose, my face again. So that's nose, between eyebrows and forehead, isn't it, where we get the majority of our texture. Now the trick between this technique, guys, is to work as quickly as possible, because as the water evaporates, it leaves like a beautiful veil, a perfecting veil of colour powder behind, although it won't be at all powdery, because we're using water, which is altering the way the silicone in the foundation behaves, and hence it's giving us a much more natural look. And it's actually helping the foundation to bond with the skin as well, to give us that second sort of skin look, which I love. I don't know whether, do you know what I mean? I don't know whether any of you out there are into that ultra natural sort of, barely that undetectable, traceless, I guess is the word. Traceless is, oh, like my J-cloth has gone into my bowl of water. So that's an occupational hazard though, isn't it? Using J-cloths on a regular basis, which I have to do because I am pretty clumsy, but... So guys, that's one layer of the True Match making a paste with a foundation brush and just water. It's as simple as that. May take a little bit of effort, but the results are phenomenal, aren't they, guys? I mean, look. Can you see that glow there? My skin now feels amazing. That feels really, really ultra smooth, very, very soft. Slightly matte, although not as matte as it was with the powder. Let's have a close inspection. Can you see my pores have disappeared? It's basically airbrushed my skin, hasn't it? And... they're still quite visible, although we know that this is an ultra sheer powder, don't we? So I might just go in for a little bit more, put a little bit more on, why not, eh? So if you're going to put any more on, just re-soak your brush and do what we did before. So what I want you to do, again, guys, is dip your brush into the water, tap him off. Again, brush is sopping wet, just dab off, and don't take so much water. I think I may have taken off too much water before, typical me, eh? Getting it all wrong. These are my techniques, so do you know what I mean? So, if I get them wrong, there's no big, great shakes there, is there, guys? And this is the beautiful thing about makeup. Do you know what I mean? Playing around with it's amazing fun, isn't it? And your results will be totally different to mine, because the factors which you're using will be totally different from mine. You might be using a slightly different brush. Even I was going to say even the nature of the water, but I'm not going to say that because that's rubbish, isn't it? Can you see that's covered that up now? You can see that, can't you guys? And look, there's nothing on my, it looks like there's nothing on my skin, doesn't it, at all? That's amazing, isn't it? So let's blend him. Let's see if it will do that on that red. There's red glass marks on. No, it's not touching because it's such a sheer formulation. And what I'll do is just blend that one into my face, get some onto my forehead too. This is just, I love doing this sort of thing. It's just so exciting. A little bit sad of me, I suppose, but go and get yourself a life, man. Right, beautiful ones, that's now 2 layers of our paste, which we've made just by adding water to the True Match Super Blendable Perfecting Powder Foundation, although I won't say again, I don't think it is a foundation, because how many times am I going to say that? Ah, right, okay, can you see that it has utterly perfected my skin? But my skin all looks even now, doesn't it? It looks airbrushed, it looks flawless. Although it looks like there's nothing on my skin at all. It just doesn't, guys. It looks, this is amazing stuff. I did think with the powder that you know, without soaking the brush first, it did look a little bit powdery, and that's the inherent nature of powders. That obviously they can look powdery, can't they, until you introduce water into the recipe. I just clean up my eyebrows a little bit because they've got some of the powder foundation on them. I'm totally stunned, absolutely stunned by this stuff. It is amazing. Out of the cassette, straight onto bare skin, using this especially. No, I didn't like that at all, and I don't like them anyway, so throw that one out. Using the brush, foundation brush, we start to get to where I want to be, which is undetectable, traceless, yet perfect. Although now I've soaked my brush, or you could use a soap sponge too, it doesn't have to be a brush. But seriously though, guys, I've checked my skin in natural daylight, I've checked it in the bathroom. All of them are very, very different light sources. The light in the bathroom is the most unforgiving in the building, and my skin just looks like there's absolutely nothing on it at all. Again, in natural daylight, it looks like there's nothing on my face. Although that's basically disappeared, hasn't it? Although you can still see it a little bit. But if that happens, just go in with your foundation brush, a little bit more paste. Locate or focus it onto the areas where you want, you know, to cover imperfections. You could even build up and make an under eye concealer using this one, using the soak sponge method, because you have the focus and the precision of application by creating the paste. So the benefits of adding water to something like a powder foundation or this True Match powder are innumerable, guys. The fact that any skin type could now benefit from this powder, whereas before I would have thought the dry skin, it would have clung to flakes, but by creating the paste, it helps the foundation to glide over those flakes. They won't cling or adhere to flakes either. So I just think that's incredible, absolutely stunning. And I could go out, oh, there's a piece of fluff. And I could actually go out now without, without anyone knowing that I've got anything on my face at all, although my skin looks near as perfect as damn it, doesn't it, guys? So, £10 well spent, I would say. That's it for today, beautiful ones. I'm going to go into town now and show off my beautiful, flawless, yet undetectable, ultra-natural skin. If you enjoyed today's video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Similarly, consider subscribing and hit the notifications button to all so you're notified each time I release new videos. All that remains is for me to wish you guys a beautiful Saturday. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Lots of love. Right, beautiful ones, this is me. I'm just going into town, showing off my beautiful new skin. It looks glowing, it looks flawless, it's just gorgeous. So if you want fabulous, beautiful, even, traceless, undetectable looking, perfect skin, soak your brush. Lots of love.